Hey everyone, 99% of you watching aren't subscribed. Let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and at 1,000 subscribers, we'll drop special stories just for you.
Mars Colony 4 had always been quiet. Perched on the edge of the interstellar frontier, it served primarily as a relay station for deep space expeditions and mining operations. Captain Elias Voss had chosen it precisely for its isolation. After nearly 2 decades in the Earth Defense Fleet, he had enough of politics, battles, and ghosts. He hadn't expected anything to break that quiet. The perimeter alarm pulse read at 0200 Martian Standard. Unauthorized landing. No registry code. No transponder handshake. Just a sudden gravitational anomaly and a shadow falling over his private pad. He slid out of bed, hand instinctively brushing the grip of his sidearm. The screen above the doorway flickered to life, revealing a ship descending. No, hovering over the pad. It was black like obsidian, with luminous blue glyphs crawling across its hull. It shimmered, as if not fully solid. Organic tech? Or something else? Computer, he barked, pulling on his uniform. Identify the ship. Unregistered vessel. Design unknown. Energy output exceeding civilian thresholds. Approach is non-hostile. His fingers tightened. Non-hostile didn't mean safe. The ship touched down silently. A hiss escaped from its underside as a ramp extended, graceful, seamless. Elias raised his weapon, eyes narrowing. He activated the external scan. Nothing useful. It was shielded. Then someone stepped through the fog spilling from the open ramp. A tall figure, over 6.5 feet, clad in iridescent black armor, strode toward him. The armor moved with her, fluid yet rigid, designed for both battle and elegance. The helm she wore bore no facial features, just a narrow band of pulsing light that tracked Elias like a targeting lens. Elias raised his voice. You're trespassing on a restricted civilian platform. Identify yourself. The figure paused at the base of the ramp. Then, in a slow, deliberate motion, she lifted both gauntlets and unlatched the helmet. A cascade of platinum white hair fell across her shoulders, shimmering faintly. Her skin was faintly silvered, almost translucent, with veins that glowed beneath the surface like constellations. Her eyes, larger than human, were violet, ringed with shifting bands of ultraviolet. I am Saria of the Valdraken Sovereignty, she said, her voice a melodic echo, as though 2 versions of her were speaking at once, one near, one impossibly far. Elias lowered his weapon slightly. Valdraken? I've heard rumors. Genetic designers. Psyforge warriors. Extinct for centuries. We never went extinct, she said. We simply stopped talking. Then she turned and gestured toward the ship's ramp, and a child stepped out. He looked to be around 6 years old, maybe 7. Pale copper skin, deep-set dark eyes that glinted with the same shifting violet as hers. He wore a simple tunic, high-tech fibers woven into the fabric. He moved with eerie precision, like someone who'd been trained in zero gravity since birth. Elias froze. The boy's face, it was unmistakable. The slope of the nose, the squared chin, even the dimple at the left cheek, when he tilted his head. It was like looking into a mirror of his own childhood photos, but distorted through a starborn lens. Saria placed her hand gently on the boy's shoulder. You are Elias Voss, she said. He nodded slowly, eyes never leaving the boy. Then you must meet your son. The words hit him like an atmospheric impact. Elias staggered back. My what? Your son. His name is Kalen. No, that's not possible. I've never seen you before. We met 7 of your years ago, during the Eclipse mission. Elias flinched at the mention. The Eclipse mission. A routine warp corridor survey near the edge of Sector Persis 9. An anomaly. Static. A flash of light, and then blackout. Officially, he was listed as missing for 48 hours. He had no memory of what occurred during the time. When he returned, Command ran psych evals. Claimed it was a temporal stress reaction. They grounded him for 6 months. Saria stepped forward. Her face held no anger, only certainty. You were drawn into an unstable fold space. The Valdraken rescued you. Your DNA was damaged by the corridor. We repaired you, You and I. No, Elias whispered. I would remember. You can't. The fold space dissolved moments as they happened. You lived inside a moment of time that never cohered into memory. Kalen approached him now. His steps were soft, his eyes searching. Elias stared, mind racing. Could this be true? Could a forgotten fracture in time have left him a father? The boy reached out with a small hand, and when their fingers touched, Elias felt something snap into place. A cascade of feelings hit him. Strange, alien, yet familiar. A warmth that had no source. A whisper, not in his ears, but inside his mind. Father. The voice came from a boy, but not aloud. It came from within, like a shared memory that hadn't existed until that moment. Elias gasped. Saria stood motionless, watching. He chose to awaken a bond, she said softly. You feel it now, the link between your minds, between your blood. Elias sank to one knee, still holding the boy's hand. Kalen, the child smiled faintly. I've waited a long time, he said, aloud this time. Elias looked up at Saria. Why now? She hesitated. Because forces beyond our control are coming. Forces that seek to erase all divergent life forms. Kalen is a target, but he is also a bridge. Between Earth and Valdraken. Between war and something better. She took a step back. I have brought him here. He must know both heritages. He must know you. A deep rumble echoed above them. The stars were shifting. Sensors across the colony flared with unknown signals. The past had arrived. The future waited in a boy's eyes. And Captain Elias Voss, who had spent his life in the service of logic, strategy, and order, now knelt before a child he had never known he had and felt a new war stirring in his heart. A war for family, for memory, for something bigger than he'd ever imagined. The next few hours passed in a haze. Elias sat in his quarters, staring at the boy, his son, while Saria stood watchfully at a window, her eyes fixed on the dusty Martian horizon as if expecting enemies to rise from the dunes. Kalen wandered the space slowly, tracing his fingers over books, datapads, the old photo of Elias and his late sister. He moved like someone who had only seen these things in theory, in passing, interested but distant, as if reality was new. I remember this, Kalen said softly, his small hand hovering over the framed photo of Elias in his Earth Fleet uniform. You wore this when you saved her. Elias's brow furrowed. Saved who? Saria turned. Me, she said, though you don't remember. Elias stood and faced her. I keep hearing that I don't remember, that we met, that we conceived a child. But I don't. There's nothing there, just a blank darkness in my mind. Because you were never meant to retain it, she replied. Time doesn't move the same way where we found you. The echo zone bends memory. Emotions stay. Instincts sometimes. But memory? It fragments like ice under a torch. Elias leaned against the table, his head pounding. Explain it to me. From the beginning. No riddles. No warrior speak. Just tell me what happened. Saria stepped forward, slowly. You were exploring the fringe of the Antares vortex during the Eclipse mission. A spatial fold opened unexpectedly. What you call a wormhole, but to us, it's something else. A syzygetic rift. The Valdraken study such rifts for reasons beyond physics. They're intersections of time, thought, and evolution. You pulled me out. No, she said. You fell in. Your vessel crumbled. But your life signature echoed through the rift, loud, sharp, and defiant. I was on a mission of reclamation inside the fold. I found you in stasis, your body breaking apart at the molecular edge. Elias exhaled slowly. And you healed me? More than that, she said softly. To save you, I had to bind your essence to mine. The Valdraken do not regenerate through machines. We link life to life. I gave you part of my breath, my genes, and in return you gave something back. She glanced at Kalen. A new being, one born in the echo. Time flowed differently there. Days for you, years for me. Kalen grew, watched, and felt you, even though you could not see him. Elias shook his head, stepping back, overwhelmed. I don't remember any of it. Not your face, your voice, him. I was alone in that rift. Lost. Saria nodded, understanding. Because you were human, bound by linear time. But your body knew. You returned altered. Your commanders called it psychological trauma. But they couldn't explain why your cellular decay had reversed or why your neural activity didn't match your brain scans. Elias clenched his jaw. He had buried the trauma of the Eclipse mission. He had told himself it was just a near-death experience, filtered through stress and fear. Now he stood in front of proof that it was something far more profound. Kalen turned from the table and looked at him directly. "Do you want to remember?" The boy asked. Elias froze. Kalen stepped closer, placing both hands on Elias's. "I can show you. I am the memory." And without waiting for permission, Kalen closed his eyes. The room disappeared. Asterisk, asterisk. Elias felt a sharp pull behind his eyes, and suddenly he was elsewhere. Darkness gave way to fractured light, like shards of a broken mirror floating in space. He stood in a massive chamber made of shifting crystal, under a sky of swirling stars. The air shimmered with voices, unspoken but heard, and there he was, himself, lying on a dais, body covered in filaments of silver light. Beside him knelt Saria, younger, armor cracked, blood trailing down one temple. She pressed her hand to his chest, her own life force visibly pulsing into him. Kalen stood nearby, only an infant, cradled in a bio-hammock woven of energy. The memory bent, looped. Elias saw Saria carrying him through the rift. He saw moments they shared, glimpses of firelight, starlit water, hands touching, a kiss exchange in zero gravity. He felt it all, the terror, the connection, the love. He gasped as the vision snapped back. They were in the room again. Elias dropped to one knee, sweat beading on his brow. Kalen held his hand. "I told you," the boy said. "You saved her. You saved me. I remember it all for you." Elias looked at him, truly looked at him. For the first time, "Kalen," he whispered. The boy smiled. "Hi, Dad." A deep silence fell between them, not awkward, sacred. Saria exhaled gently, her stance softening. "He's the first of his kind," she said. "A hybrid, human resilience, Valdraken potential. He will have enemies on both sides. But he needed you. He chose you." Elias stood, taller now, more certain. "If what you're saying is true, then he's not just a son. He's a bridge, a symbol." Saria nodded. "And that's why I brought him to you now. Because forces beyond this system have learned of him. There are those who would take him, use him, or erase him entirely." Elias narrowed his eyes. "Who?" "The Earth Directorate," she replied. "And the Fold Caste." The Fold Caste. Elias had heard whispers, an ancient faction of psionic purists who believed hybrids were an abomination. And the Earth Directorate? They dissect Kalen and call it research. "We'll protect him," Elias said. "I don't know how yet, but we will." He looked at the boy and placed a hand on his shoulder. "I won't lose you. Not again." Kalen beamed. For the first time in years, Elias Voss felt something bloom in the core of his chest. Purpose. But in the sky above, unknown vessels blinked into orbit, and the war for Kalen's future had already begun. Elias Voss had faced planetary sieges and black hole brinksmanship, but nothing in his decorated career prepared him for fatherhood, especially not of a child half-human, half-Valdraken, with psionic potential that could disrupt an entire planetary grid. It had been 4 days since Saria arrived with Kalen. For days since Elias had learned he was a father. For days since the skies above Mars' colony 4 began humming with strange frequencies. He paced his quarters, brows furrowed. The colony's communications were being jammed intermittently. Long-range sensors, normally reliable, showed brief but sharp spikes in energy, only to drop again as if cloaked. Something was circling in orbit. He wasn't paranoid. He was being hunted. Saria confirmed it. "The Fold Caste are close," she said, her tone sharper now. "They detected Kalen the moment he linked minds with you. It was too strong a burst to hide." Elias slammed a fist on the table. "And EarthGov? Are they tracking him to—" Saria nodded. "Worse. The Earth Directorate has deployed a vessel from Division Theta. Gene harvesters. They'll call it containment. But what they want is Kalen's blood. His genome breaks every rule they cling to. Kalen sat on the floor nearby, surrounded by glowing shards of crystal, Valdraken tech. The fragments pulsed rhythmically, orbiting him like moons around a core. His eyes were closed, body still, lips moving in whispers only he could hear. Elias approached cautiously. Is he training? Saria watched with solemn pride. He's attuning. The Valdraken store memory in light crystal. He's absorbing the knowledge of his ancestors, learning what no hybrid has ever been taught. He's a kid, Elias muttered. He should be building forts, not absorbing millennia of alien philosophy. Saria turned to him. He doesn't have time for forts. That truth hung in the air. Later that night, the Martian wind howled across the outpost. Red dust slithered over domes and vents like silent snakes. Inside, Elias reviewed schematics. His fingers danced across the holodable, pulling up defense protocols. Perimeter shields, weak. Drones, obsolete. Power, barely enough for a skirmish. We're defenseless, he muttered. You don't need walls, said Saria behind him. You have Kalen. He turned sharply. I won't put him in the line of fire. You may not have a choice. Elias stared at her, voice low. He's just a child. Saria held his gaze. He is not. He is legacy, born of two paths. He is the only one who can bend fate. That struck a nerve. I didn't choose this, Elias said, his voice rising. You brought him here, dropped a war in my lap, and expect me to accept that he's a messianic figure while bounty hunters and Earth Black Ops close in? She didn't flinch. You may not have chosen him, Elias, but he chose you. Elias bit his lip. He couldn't argue with that. The bond, the psionic tether, still pulsed faintly in his chest, a thread that linked him to Kalen's thoughts, his dreams, his fears. And tonight, Elias felt something. A ripple. Panic. He turned to the corridor. Kalen, the boy who called lightning. They found him standing outside, barefoot in the dust, staring up at the Martian sky. Stars shimmered, but one star was moving, descending. A stealth vessel, cloaked in light reflective plating, slid through the atmosphere like a silver knife. Division Theta. Kalen spoke softly as Elias reached him. They're here. How many? Elias whispered. Kalen closed his eyes. 12 humans. 2 enhanced. 1 not human. Saria stepped beside them, pulling her plasma scythe from her back. The blade extended with a sizzle of molten light. We must flee, she said. I have a warp node hidden 3 clicks east. We can be off-planet before they breach your dome. No, Elias said. If we run now, we'll never stop running. I know Directorate Ops. If they smell blood, they pursue until the scent is gone. Saria hesitated. Then we hold. Kalen opened his eyes. They glowed. I'll protect us. Elias knelt in front of him. No, we protect each other. Together. The Battle of Red Dust. The Division Theta team breached at 0320. No warning. No negotiation. They dropped from orbit like meteors. Powered armor, concussion weapons, genome locks. Their orders: extract the hybrid. Terminate all resistance. But the moment they entered the perimeter, the sand itself rose. Kalen stepped into the open, eyes gleaming like twin novas. Around him, the Martian dust swirled, lifted by unseen force. Crystalline fragments from his meditation began orbiting him once more, only faster, sharper, weaponized. The first shockwave knocked the lead commando flat. Saria danced into the chaos, her blade singing as she disarmed and disabled with lethal grace. Elias used the terrain, old cargo containers, turret emplacements, to snipe and sabotage, slowing their advance. But it was Kalen who turned the tide. He raised his hands, and the sky bent. Electric arcs snapped across the dome. Theta systems crashed. Comms failed. Guns jammed. One operative screamed as his exosuit imploded under pressure. And then silence. Kalen stood alone in the center of the field, the survivors fleeing in terror. His voice echoed in all their minds at once. You cannot have me. I belong to both worlds. I belong to myself. The last Theta craft fled into orbit. Aftermath. The dawn came slowly, casting long shadows across the red sands. Saria tended her wounds in silence. Elias leaned against a wall, watching Kalen sleep. "He's more powerful than I imagined," Elias said. "He's just beginning," she replied. Elias looked at her. "So what now? What happens to him?" "To us." Saria stood and met his gaze. "The Fold Cast will come next. They are relentless. More than directorate. They see Kalen as a breach in the wall of order they've maintained for eons. Then we stand together." "You would fight with me?" Elias gave a tired smile. "He's my son. I'd fight the stars themselves." Saria looked down at Kalen, curled against the wall, glowing faintly. "Then prepare yourself, Elias Voss." This was only the first battle. The sun rose slowly over Mars Colony 4, casting a pale golden hue through the red haze. The outpost lay in uneasy quiet, broken infrastructure groaning as it tried to repair itself. Smoke curled from collapsed drone turrets. Shattered glass and warped metal bore the scars of the previous night's battle. Inside the main structure, Elias stood over Kalen, who was still sleeping, his small frame wrapped in a heat blanket. His breathing was steady, but Elias could sense the vast energy coursing beneath the stillness, a quiet storm waiting to rise again. Saria moved with precision as she repacked her gear, checking her scythe, data scrolls, and what looked like a crystallized memory shard. "They'll be back," she said flatly. Elias didn't look up. "The Fold Cast." She nodded. "And they won't use soldiers this time. They'll send mind seekers, whisper saints, beings that don't kill with weapons, but with doubt. They'll fracture his identity from the inside." Elias turned. "And what do we do?" "Just keep running until we're cornered on some moon with no atmosphere left." "No," she said, stepping closer. "We evolve." He raised an eyebrow. "You and I were bound in the echo. Our son is the product of a moment that shouldn't exist. He cannot survive on Earth or Valdraken terms. He must define his own." Elias rubbed his face. "You're saying he has to what?" "Transcend." Saria looked toward the window where Mars's twin moons hung like glowing sentinels. "He has to choose what kind of being he will be. Not weapon, not bridge, not symbol, but something entirely new. The ritual of union." At Saria's request, Elias followed her and Kalen into the wastelands beyond the colony. They traveled for miles on foot, deeper into the ancient valleys where no terraformer had touched. They arrived at a crystalline monolith half buried in sand. Valdraken runes crawled over its surface, soft pulses of light illuminating forgotten glyphs. "This is the ether node," Saria said. "It listens, and it remembers. It's how our kind initiate the becoming." Kalen stepped forward. "I hear it," he whispered. "It hums like my thoughts." Elias looked at Saria. "Is this safe?" "No," she said, "but it's necessary." Kalen turned and looked at his parents. "I'm ready." Elias knelt. "You don't have to do this for us." "I'm not," Kalen said. "I'm doing this for me." He pressed his palm to the monolith. The ground vibrated. Dust swirled upward in a spiral. Light poured from the glyphs, flooding the valley in lavender and gold. Elias staggered back. Saria knelt, eyes closed, murmuring something ancient. Kalen rose into the air, weightless, radiant, arms outstretched. Visions poured from him. A world where humans and Valdraken walk side by side. Cities suspended in zero gravity. Choirs of quantum minds singing across galaxies. Machines not built, but grown from shared memory. Elias cried out as the visions flooded his mind, overwhelming and beautiful. Kalen glowed like a second sun. Then silence. The boy landed softly, eyes no longer glowing, but clear, deep, centered. Saria opened her eyes. He chose. Elias stepped forward, breathless. What did he choose? Kalen looked up. "I chose both, and neither. I chose myself." The message, that night, a ripple echoed across the solar system. A psychic burst, a beacon not of aggression, but of declaration. Kalen had made himself known to both the Earth Directorate and the Fold Cast, not as a threat or as a pawn, but as a sovereign being. Elias watched the reports come in. Sensors picked up sudden withdrawals. Directorate ships changing course. Full probes vanishing. Fear? Or awe? Maybe both. Saria joined him on the watch deck. It won't last. The galaxy doesn't yield that easily. No, Elias said, but now they know he's not alone. She looked at him. And what about you? I'm not going anywhere. I don't understand everything that happened in the Echo, but I know this, he's mine, my son. Whatever comes, I'm standing between him and the fire. She smiled, rare, genuine. Then maybe I should go. Elias blinked. What? You've given him something I couldn't. A choice. He's grounded now, anchored. He'll need you more than me in the days ahead. Elias looked at Kalen, sitting cross-legged near the observation window, drawing glowing symbols in the air. He needs both of us. She reached out and placed her hand over Elias's. Then I return, when the stars call again. And with that, she stepped into the shadows, her armor melting into invisibility, her presence fading into silence. Epilogue. The child who changed the sky. Months passed. Kalen grew, physically, mentally, cosmically. He began teaching other children how to dream in multiple timelines. He built devices that use memory instead of energy. He reached out, not just to humans or Valdraken, but to all those trapped between identities. Lost hybrids, forgotten species, machines with soul cores. And people listened. Because Kalen Voss wasn't just the son of a warrior and a starship captain. He was a child who walked through time, the boy who became. And in his wake, the galaxy itself began to change, one light at a time.